So, what a way to kick off Power 5 football in week 0 than by an upset as Northwestern topples Nebraska. Today, we've got a lot to unpack in this game because yesterday I actually picked Nebraska to win this game. Ultimately, Northwestern pulls off the upset, and because of that, we need to talk about where I was wrong, key takeaways, and just everything encompassing this game. But before we can, as always, you know the drill. I need to hear from you. Hop down to the comments, Y for yes, N for no. Are you surprised that Northwestern was able to pull the upset? And let me know what you're thinking. If you are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe, hit that bell notification as I do constant college football content. You don't want to miss any of it, and if you enjoyed the content, like and comment down below as those interactions are massive. But having said all that, let's jump right into this because we have a lot to unpack. And there's no way around this. This season was set to be huge for the Huskers, but Scott Frost in particular. Since 2017, when he won Coach of the Year with UCF, it has not been a great start to the Nebraska Cornhuskers career that so many had envisioned for Scott Frost. In fact, with this game, he's now 15-30 at Nebraska, and this is a fan base that remembers the days that occurred not too long ago where Nebraska was on top of college football. And yes, it's been some time since that happened, but not long enough that it's so far in the distant memory that the fan base doesn't expect better than this. And ultimately, this game was a big beacon of hope for the Nebraska fan base, starting off against a Big Ten opponent in Northwestern who Nebraska was able to beat handedly last year. And fast forward to this year, you get a new offensive coordinator who many, including myself, have been excited about for the Nebraska Cornhuskers. You get in a quarterback out the transfer portal in Casey Thompson who, much like the offensive coordinator, many, including myself, have been very excited to see make his Husker debut. You get a ton of other additions out the transfer portal, and Nebraska was a team a lot of people were looking at thinking, okay, you came so close in so many games last year, but ultimately you couldn't get out of your own way. Whether it was penalties, whether it was special teams mishaps, Nebraska always seemed to trip over their own feet at the worst time. This was going to be a huge game for them to come out and start this year with confidence. I talked about this in a space with JD Piquel the other day on Tuesday. If you don't already, be sure to check out JD's spaces on Twitter every Tuesday, 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. Awesome time, and JD is great at what he does, but we were talking about this game and how important it was for Nebraska to be able to build the foundation for a successful season off the back of this game in particular. And up until a certain point, it looked like that was what was going to happen. Nebraska and Northwestern were trading blows. They were going tick for tack, but ultimately Nebraska started to pull ahead. And then comes a call that will live in infamy for quite some time and is sure to be talked about around the clock. The onside kick after the touchdown. Because an onside kick was called after all the momentum was swinging Nebraska's way, not just offensively, but defensively as well. And yes, I can understand calling an onside kick in different situations, but whenever you have all the momentum on your side and you're not going up against a young coach and a young quarterback on the other side, you have a very veteran quarterback on the other side that's played in big college football games and has won some big college football games. So he's an experienced individual being coached by Pat Fitzgerald. And one area I was absolutely right in my preview is one thing you can expect with Northwestern. They are going to be an extremely well-coached team under Pat Fitzgerald. You can pretty much well take that to the bank. That's exactly what we saw today. So whenever Nebraska did the onside kick in that setting where all the momentum was going to their way, when there's a veteran quarterback on the other side and a very disciplined coach on the other side, I was scratching my head, and it seemed to be another instance of Nebraska being unable to get out of their own way. This was a huge moment for Scott Frost and the Nebraska Cornhuskers, and ultimately they came up short. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens next, as many people believe Scott Frost could be on a short leash this year because the results have just not been shown in Lincoln. But now, let's talk about some key takeaways in the game. Where was I wrong? And first and foremost, one of the areas I was wrong right off the bat is I picked Nebraska to win the game. Ultimately, it was Northwestern. But one of the things I talked about in my preview was that Nebraska's defensive front was one I was very intrigued to see. They were strong last season. They got in some pieces through the transfer portal, and that was a matchup I was looking forward to, especially with Northwestern's tackle. That dude right there is going to be playing in the NFL, and I talked about in my preview video, whoever's going up against him, scouts are going to be watching that because that's going to be teach tape. Now, ultimately, I was right that dude is a beast. That guy's going to be playing on Sundays, no doubt about it. Where I was wrong is how well Northwestern's line as a whole would be able to nullify the Nebraska front, and by extension, how well Northwestern would be able to run the football. Because Northwestern ran the football incredibly effectively, and because of that, they won the time of possession battle. Because they were able to be balanced throwing the football and running the football, they were able to control the clock, which down the stretch made a huge difference. On the flip side, I thought Nebraska would have far more success running the football than they did, especially when you look at how they beat Northwestern just a year ago, where they ran it down their throats and Northwestern really couldn't do anything to stop it. Now, I did talk about in my preview video that after that game, Northwestern made adjustments to their defense, and it was going to be interesting to see how those adjustments carried over into this game. I talked about that this morning with Chris Griffin of the Horns Down podcast and live, but ultimately, at the end of the day, Nebraska wasn't able to get out the offensive prowess on the rushing side that they wanted. In fact, they had 31 attempts on the ground for 111 yards to match Northwestern's 47 attempts on the ground, 214 yards. That totally skewed a major portion of the offensive game plan in Northwestern's favor, and like I said, by extension, skewed the time of possession in Northwestern's favor. And speaking of Nebraska's inability to run, that was something that I was super keyed in on even before this game, especially with the comments Pat Narduzzi made when Whipple left Pittsburgh to go to Nebraska. Now, at the end of the day, Casey Thompson made some big plays this game. He had some misses, but the 2 interceptions thrown where the ball hit off the hands of his playmaker into the hands of the defense, that's killer. And the other factor in this game that won it, aside from Northwestern's rush and by extension time of possession, Northwestern won the turnover battle. Yes, they had a big fumble off of a big rush, but at the end of the day, they only had that 1 turnover to Nebraska's 3 turnovers. And if you turn the ball over 3 times, if you have an opposing team go over 500 yards of offense on you and you're losing the time of possession battle, you're going to have a really hard time winning the football game. At the end of the day, this is a huge win for Pat Fitzgerald and Northwestern. Ryan Helinski went out there and had himself a day, throwing for over 300 yards, 8.2 average yards per attempt and 2 touchdowns. And he was able to go out there and make sure his team got a victory. A veteran quarterback who was able to ensure that he didn't put his team in the wrong places and that they were able to go out there and be disciplined to the point of attack. The rushing attack for Northwestern was very impressive. Evan Hull had himself a day. And this is going to be a team I'm really keyed in on as the season continues to go, because I do have a lot of faith in Pat Fitzgerald. But likewise, I'm also keyed in on what happens in Nebraska, because this was supposed to be a game that could lay the foundation for a successful season, and that didn't happen. And this was a team that didn't have a lot of big-time wins last season. They had a lot of close losses. You start off this season with another close loss to a team you beat handily a year ago. I'm not sure where Nebraska goes from here. I'm not sure what happens with Scott Frost from here, but I really am interested to hear what y'all think happens from here. Hop down in the comments, let me know what you're thinking, because this is a great way for us to start off the season. That's it. See ya.